The mortgage office in Grand Rapids was quiet. The soft tapping of keyboards made a little clatter, and the air smelled like fresh printer toner. The loan officer slid the last pile of papers across the shiny oak table. "Kaylin Maris, congratulations on your first home," she said, her voice echoing a little in the quiet room. I looked toward the waiting area. All the chairs were empty. There were no family members waving, no cameras flashing, no cheering. Just quiet. My coworker, Nola, smiled at me and quickly snapped a photo. "Where's your family?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, they're running late," I said, though I knew they weren't coming. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and join the awesome community. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what you think of the story. That evening, back at my apartment, I dropped my new keys on the counter. They clinked against the smooth surface. I picked up my phone and saw a message from Dad. It made my stomach twist. "Send $50,000 so Dorian can buy a new car. Can't have him losing to you." There were no words like "congratulations" or "how's your new house?" Just a demand. I stared at my phone, feeling a tight knot in my chest. Then I opened my banking app. I sent exactly $1 and typed "for gas." It wasn't much, but it was a small way of saying no. When the confirmation popped up on my screen, something inside me shifted. I took a deep breath and called a locksmith. Soon a man came and installed a new deadbolt on my front door. Thought. Throng. My own. For the first time, the door was completely mine. 4 nights later, red and blue lights flashed through my blinds. I was heating up leftover pizza in the microwave. The beep had barely stopped when someone knocked very hard at my door. I peeked through the peephole. 2 police officers stood in the hallway. One officer was adjusting his radio, the other held a notepad. I opened the door just a little, keeping the chain on. "Evening, ma'am," said the taller officer. His badge shone under the light. "We received a welfare concern from your father. He said you changed the locks and haven't returned his calls." I unhooked the chain and stepped back. "Come in," I said. The apartment smelled faintly of tomato sauce and cardboard from takeout boxes. I pointed toward the kitchen counter, which was clean and tidy. My work laptop rested next to the papers from buying my house. The shorter officer's eyes paused on a framed letter from my real estate firm. "Looks like you're doing fine," he said kindly. I shrugged. "Just setting some boundaries." They asked normal questions. "Any stress at work? Health problems?" I answered simply, "I'm a new homeowner and busy." "No problems." The taller officer nodded and jotted notes in his notebook. "Your dad sounded worried," he said. "He thought you might be struggling." I almost laughed. Dad wasn't worried about me. He was worried about control. As the officers turned to leave, the shorter one paused at the door. "People panic when control slips. Happens more often than you'd think," he said. The deadbolt clicked shut behind them. Thought. Final. I stood in the quiet apartment, letting it settle around me. My pizza was forgotten. The quiet didn't feel empty. It felt like a soft blanket wrapping around me. For the first time, I really felt like this place was mine. I went to bed that night, but sleep didn't come easily. My mind wandered back to when I was 16. I worked after school at a Subaru parts kiosk. The place smelled like motor oil and rubber. The fluorescent lights buzzed above. I would count spark plugs and windshield wipers, smiling at customers even though my feet ached in cheap sneakers. Every paycheck went straight to Mom's account, marking Dorian's expenses. Dorian wanted gaming consoles, designer jeans, and a ridiculous light-up skateboard. Dad would pat my shoulder. "Family invests in the future," he said. I believed him. I thought my hard work was helping the family. But the future always went to Dorian. His soccer cleats came before my textbooks. His spring break trip replaced my SAT prep course. I would drag home after double shifts, my hands smelling like brake cleaner, and find him sprawled on the couch with a video game controller in his hands. "Thanks, sis," he'd mutter, not even looking at me. Dad never noticed the grease under my nails, the blisters on my hands, or the exhaustion in my face. To him, I was just the engine that kept the golden child running smoothly. By 18, I had saved enough for night classes at community college and online modules, anything that fit around work. Dad clapped me on the back. "Proud of you, kid. Keep sending those checks. Dorian's got potential." Potential meant private lessons, new wheels, entry fees for go-kart races. I kept wiring the money, telling myself it was temporary. I graduated with honors, got a real estate job, and closed my first deal last month. I bought the house on Maple Street with every overtime shift I worked. I missed the holidays. I gave up on sleeping. And still, no one came to celebrate my big moment. The officer's visit replayed in my head. Calm. Professional. In contrast, Dad's panic was always loud and messy. He hadn't called once since I closed on the house. No, how's the house? No, do you need help moving? Just silence. Until the locks changed. Then suddenly I was in a crisis. I paced the living room, bare feet on the cool hardwood. The hum of the city came through my window. For years I had measured love in payments and favors, thinking if I gave enough they would notice. But the scale never balanced. I stopped at the counter, staring at the cooling slice of pizza. The quiet wasn't empty anymore. It felt earned, like the first breath after holding it too long. No more footsteps I didn't invite. No more demands. I took a bite. The cheese burned my tongue, but it grounded me. Tonight the apartment was mine. That was enough. The next morning I brewed coffee and, out of habit, opened my credit monitoring app. Then I froze. A new hard inquiry appeared on my report. Dated 3 days earlier. I tapped on an auto loan for $50,000 at Horizon Federal Bank. The cosigner was listed as Cashin Maris. My heart pounded as I read. The delivery address? The old family house. This wasn't a mistake. Dad had used my social security number, my birth date, everything from the documents I had kept safe for years. I called the bank's fraud line. Horizon Federal, this is Mark. How can I help? I explained that there was an unauthorized auto loan in my name. He pulled up the application. Keys clacked on his keyboard. Yes, ma'am. Opened in person at the Breton Road branch. The primary applicant provided your ID and SSN in person. Cosigner Cashin Maris signed as well. Dad had walked into the bank, smiled, and used my identity to get a car for Dorian. Freeze it immediately, I said, my voice steady but firm. Mark promised to send all the documents within 24 hours. I hung up, my hands shaking slightly. The loan showed pending charges. Custom rims, performance exhaust, dealer fees. All for a car Dorian didn't earn. I needed proof that Dad couldn't deny it. Michigan law allows one-party recording, so I opened my app and called Dad. He answered on the fourth ring, a TV blaring in the background. Finally decided to talk? He barked. Explain the $50,000 auto loan in my name, I said. Silence. Then a short, dismissive chuckle. Just building Dorian's credit. You're doing so well with that house. Share the wealth. Family helps family, he said. I gritted my teeth. You forged my signature. Another laugh. It's an investment. He'll pay it back once he's on his feet. Stop being dramatic. His voice was calm, like I was the one out of line. What's mine isn't yours, I said, ending the call. The app had automatically recorded 23 seconds of his confession. I replayed it twice. His words were crystal clear. Evidence. I saved the recording to my laptop, renamed it Proof to Cashin, and backed it up to the cloud. Next, I logged into the bank portal and downloaded every page of the application. Dad's looping signature stared back at me. Next to it was a photocopy of my old college driver's license, which I had reported lost years ago. The branch timestamp matched a day I had spent in meetings across town. There was no way I could have been there. I printed all the documents at the corner copy shop. The pages were still warm from the laser printer. The clerk raised an eyebrow at the thick stack but said nothing. Back home, I slid the papers into a plain manila folder with metal prongs. On the tab I wrote a bank file in black marker. It joined my house closing papers on my desk. Two worlds colliding. The coffee had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. Bitter against my tongue. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about the audacity, the boldness, of erasing my boundaries and pretending it was okay. I looked around my apartment. Everything was mine. My desk. My books. My coffee mug. My pizza. My keys. My space. For the first time, no one could touch it without my permission. No one could take it. No one could erase me. And I smiled. The world outside was loud, messy, and sometimes unfair. But inside my apartment, behind the solid deadbolt, I was finally safe. Finally free. Finally me. Dad saw my success as a way to get things, not as me being a person. He didn't see me as Kaylin, his child, with my own thoughts and feelings. Dorian probably sat somewhere, pretending to drive cars in his imagination, not thinking about what it would cost me. I closed my laptop. The folder was heavy in my lap. It felt heavy not just with papers but with all the proof I had gathered. Every document, every email, every bank form, it was all written down carefully. Now, no matter what happened next, I had proof. I held the cards. On Saturday at noon, I drove to the Subaru car lot where Dorian had worked during the summers. Now he wanted to own it. The sun made the asphalt shine like glass. Rows of new cars sparkled in the bright sunlight, their stickers gleaming and reflecting off the windows. I parked my car near the service area, careful not to block anyone, and placed the folder on the passenger seat. Then I waited, feeling my heart thump in my chest like a drum. Dad's truck arrived 15 minutes late. Mom sat in the front seat, clutching her purse like it could protect her from the storm about to happen. Dorian lounged in the back, sunglasses perched on his head, acting like he didn't have a care in the world. They all got out. Dad adjusted his polo shirt, making sure he looked perfect. Mom gripped her purse tightly and Dorian stretched lazily, pretending to check his phone but clearly noticing me. I stepped out of my car, folder in hand, taking a deep breath. "Let's talk," Dad said, gesturing toward the showroom where it was cooler inside. I shook my head. "Here is fine," I said. Dorian leaned against the truck, thumbs tapping his phone. Mom glanced around nervously. "This isn't the place, Kaylin," she said softly, trying to sound calm. I opened the folder and pulled out the bank papers. There was a loan for $50,000. My name and address were on it. Dad's jaw tightened. He looked like someone had just told him a secret he didn't want to hear. "Misunderstanding. We'll pay it back," Mom said quickly. Her voice sounded panicked. "Your father meant well," Dorian said with a smirk, like everything was a game. "Yeah, chill. It's just a car," he added, waving his hand. I ignored him. I slid the papers across the car hood. Dad's signature was bold, clear, with my social security number right under it. Mom's face went pale. "Cashin, you said it was approved," she said. Before Dad could answer, my phone buzzed. It was Aunt Uni on FaceTime. I answered and propped it on the dashboard so she could see everything. "What's going on?" "Your dad is just proud of Dorian, right?" she asked, smiling like everything was normal. I turned the phone toward the papers. "He deserves nice things," I said, "but on my credit, not mine." Unia squinted, confused. "That's not how it looks, Cashin," she said, frowning. Dad leaned closer. "Unia, it's temporary. She's overreacting." I hit play on the recording app. Dad's voice crackled through the speaker. "Just building Dorian's credit. You're doing so well. Share the wealth." The car lot went quiet. A salesman paused mid-conversation with a customer. Dorian's sunglasses slipped down his nose. Mom whispered, "Turn it off." Aunt Unia's eyes widened. "You recorded your father?" she asked. Then the call ended abruptly. Dad's face flushed. "You had no right," he said, his voice shaking. I gathered the papers. The bank would no longer deal with the family. Dorian kicked some gravel, sending little stones flying. "You're embarrassing us," he snapped. A mechanic rolled a WRX past us, its engine roaring loudly. Dad grabbed my arm lightly. "Think about your mother," he said. I pulled free. "I have," I said. Mom's eyes glistened, but she stayed silent. I slid into my car, the folder safe on the passenger seat. As I backed out, I watched the lot shrink in my rearview mirror. Their figures looked small beneath the fluttering dealership flags. Driving home, the air conditioner blasted cold against my skin. Dad's voice echoed in my mind, full of denial, but the proof sat beside me, undeniable. Mom's silence hurt more than anything. She had chosen sides without saying a word. Dorian's entitlement, Unia's blind defense, Dad's schemes. It all fit the pattern I had ignored too long. Grand Rapids traffic thickened as I merged onto the highway. Windows down, the wind tugged at loose strands of hair. No more explanations were needed. At a red light, I glanced at the folder again. The bank packet included ID photos, Dad smiling, my old license clipped inside. He had planned everything, timing it with the closing of my house. But plans crack under scrutiny. The light turned green and I accelerated, the city blurring ahead. Whatever fallout came, I was ready to face it head-on. 2 weeks later, Dorian posted an Instagram countdown. New WRX in 24 hours. The photo showed him grinning beside a blue Subaru, keys dangling from his fingers. Comments poured in, friends hyping, emojis exploding everywhere. I scrolled from my couch, the bank's freeze notice still open on my laptop. They hadn't backed down. The next afternoon, Horizon Federal canceled the loan entirely, citing verification issues. An email followed, saying bank officers would accompany a representative to the dealership to check the documents. I closed the message. No need to attend. The dealership would handle the rest. Inside the showroom, lights gleamed off polished floors and shiny chrome. Dorian stood center stage beside the WRX, arms crossed. The salesman clapped his shoulder. Dad hovered nearby, checking his watch. Mom sat on a leather bench, flipping through brochures. Customers milled around, some snapping photos of the new cars. 2 officers entered first, uniforms crisp and clean. The bank representative followed, carrying a tablet. The taller officer approached. "Good afternoon. We're here to verify financing on this vehicle." Dorian's grin faltered. "It's my car. Papers are signed." The representative opened the tablet and scrolled. The loan number ended in 472. Primary name, Kaylin Maris. Cosigner, Cashin Maris. The screen showed the signature mismatch and address discrepancy. Dad stepped forward. "There's been a mix-up. We can clear it." The officer raised a hand. "We just need the originals." Dorian dug through his backpack and pulled out crumpled forms. The representative compared them to the digital copies. The cosigner line didn't match the authorized user. Voices dropped around them. A family with toddlers paused, phones rising discreetly. Mom stood. "Officers, this is a family matter," she said. The shorter officer shook his head. "Bank policy requires on-site confirmation for disputed accounts." Dad's voice rose. "This is harassment. We're paying customers." The representative read aloud. "Unauthorized cosigner on identity documents." Gasps rippled through the showroom. A teen filmed vertically, whispering to his dad. Dorian's face flushed, sunglasses pushed up like a headband. "Turn that off," he snapped at the kid. The salesman backed away, hands raised. "Folks, let's take this to the office," he said, but the officers stayed. The vehicle remained on hold until resolved. A tow truck backed into the service bay. The driver hopped out, chains in hand. Dorian lunged. "You can't take it," he yelled. Dad grabbed his arm. "Son, calm down." The bank representative packed up the tablet. All parties were notified that further steps would go through legal channels. Customers formed a loose circle. Phones were raised everywhere. The tow driver hooked the WRX. The engine was silent under the lift. Dorian slumped against a display pillar, fists clenched, eyes wet. Mom dabbed her cheeks with a tissue. Dad argued with the officer, gestures sharp, but words lost in the echoing showroom. By evening, clips hit our Grand Rapids dealership drama. Car repo in progress. Views climbed past 50,000 within hours. Comments poured in. "That's the Maris kid. The bank doesn't play." Screenshots of Dorian's countdown post circulated, mocking his downfall. By midnight, the video topped 300,000 views, shared across local groups. I refreshed the subreddit from home. Notifications pinged non-stop. Strangers tagged the dealership demanding statements. The salesman posted an apology thread, blaming a system error. Dorian deleted his account, but archives remained. Dad's truck sat dark in the driveway next door. The folder felt heavy in my hands. I carried it to the dining table, sliced it open with a butter knife, and spread the pages across the surface. Horizon Federal vs. Cashin Maris. Civil suit for a $50,000 auto loan, plus $15,000 in attorney fees, court costs, and accrued interest. The summons scheduled a hearing downtown at the district courthouse, small claims docket. Dad filed his own response. No attorney, just his cramped handwriting. I logged into the virtual courtroom from my home office, microphone muted, camera off. The feed displayed polished wood panels and an American flag. The judge wore a black robe. Dad appeared on screen in the same gray blazer from holiday photos, collar stiff. The bank's counsel stood first, advancing slides on the projector. Plaintiff presents a loan application with inconsistent signatures, an audio recording of admission, and failed SSN verification. The clip played Dad's voice. Just building Dorian's credit. You're doing so well. Share the wealth. The judge leaned forward, glasses catching the monitor's glare. Dad cleared his throat. Private family matters, Your Honor. Counsel followed with stills from branch surveillance. Dad at the counter handing over forms. The timestamp matched the defendant's calendar, not the co-signers. Dad shifted nervously. I plan to cover it. The judge reviewed the exhibits, asked 2 brief questions, then ruled judgment for the plaintiff. Full amount plus costs. 8 minutes total. Dad's feed froze mid-expression, eyes wide. By noon, word reached his employer. Human Resources sent termination paperwork citing policy breach involving personal integrity. Colleagues boxed his belongings. Coffee mug, framed photo of Dorian, nameplate. Security escorted him to the parking garage, badge disabled. No farewell, no reference letter. Dorian withdrew from community college halfway through the semester. Grades collapsed. He picked up night shifts at a logistics hub off 44th Street, scanning barcodes beneath fluorescent lights. Uniform polo, steel-toed boots, conveyor belts stretching endlessly. And that's how everything fell apart for them. Meanwhile, I kept the folder safe, my proof of honesty and patience. It was heavy, but it reminded me that standing up for yourself is never wrong. Paychecks barely paid for half the rent for a small apartment I shared with 3 roommates. Mom worked extra long hours at the medical billing office, typing claims and bills until late at night. She skipped her book club and sometimes went grocery shopping very early in the morning before the sun came up. The house on Fulton Street grew quiet. Mail piled up on the porch and the grass in the yard grew tall and wild. Neighbors noticed our car was gone, taken quietly by the bank. Every month, letters from the bank showed money being taken from Dad's severance and from the money Mom and Dad had saved together. The balance kept going down little by little. Dorian worked at a warehouse, but his deposits barely covered the utility bills. Mom's overtime helped a little, but our credit cards were full. A judgment from the bank hung over our house, making it almost impossible to sell. Dad started selling some of his things online: golf clubs, power tools, and an old video game console. People paid cash for them. I saved the last payment receipt and closed the account. There was no happiness, only the quiet feeling of finishing something that had to be done. One night, Mom slipped a plain envelope under my door. There was no return address. Inside, in neat handwriting, it said, "We're sorry. Call when ready." I read it twice and then put it through the shredder. Life became simple. No shared accounts, no money problems tied to others. I put the court papers and insurance papers in a locked drawer. Winter ended, the roads cleared, and I stayed away from the past. 6 months later, I carried the last box into my new house. I had written "New Start" on it with a black Sharpie. The entryway smelled like fresh paint. The wooden floors were cool under my feet. I set the box by the stairs and looked around. The house had an open floor plan. Sunlight streamed in through the big windows. Dust floated in the golden light, shining like tiny stars. I hung the old deadbolt on the living room wall next to the new keyring. The old brass caught the sunlight beside the shiny new metal. Nola came by with takeout food and a 6-pack of soda. She unpacked plates while talking about houses for sale. "Perfect blank canvas," she said, stacking glasses carefully. "Work at Keller Williams kept me busy. On weekends I showed houses. On weekdays I worked on contracts. I guided a newlywed couple through a bungalow just like mine, pointing out all the updates. They signed the offer that very night." "Thanks for helping us," the wife said. I smiled and handed them the pen. I deleted all family contacts: Dad, Mom, Dorian, Aunt Unia. Phone numbers gone, social media unfollowed. My phone stayed quiet. No notifications, no messages, nothing at all. There were no surprises, no guilt, no sadness. Nola hosted a housewarming party that Saturday. She invited friends from work and friends from running. String lights hung over the patio. The grill was sizzling with steaks. Guests talked and laughed, sharing stories. Someone raised a glass and toasted to second chances. Later I stepped out onto the deck. The Grand Rapids skyline was faint in the distance. The city hummed quietly below. Traffic moved slowly. A train passed. The breeze smelled fresh, carrying the crisp scent of the lake. My phone rested on the railing, dark and silent. Peace felt real, earned by hard work. Clients soon filled my schedule. First-time home buyers, retirees, investors. I walked a veteran through inspections and celebrated his closing with coffee and donuts. "You made this happen," he said. I nodded, thinking of my own path. Each deal felt like taking back control over my life. The deadbolt on the wall drew questions at the party. "Why is it there?" someone asked. "It's a symbol of boundaries," I said simply. They smiled and moved on to music. Nola nudged me. "You really did it," she said. Simple words but full of truth. My routine became steady. Morning runs, late emails, weekend home staging. The house gained warmth. Succulents sat on the windowsill. Local art hung on the walls. Neighbors waved when I walked by. Coffee invites came. I built a community by choice, not because I had to. Family isn't just the people who claim your victories. It's the people who stand beside you. I learned that the hard way, but it was worth it. Breaking ties clearly helped me heal faster. 3 months later, a random LinkedIn message appeared from one of Dad's old coworkers. The profile picture was someone I remembered from holiday parties. The message said, "Hey Kaylin. It's been a long time. Cashin moved to Florida and is staying with his sister-in-law. Dorian works at an Amazon center scanning boxes. Thought you'd like to know." I read it while eating a turkey sandwich at my desk. The office was quiet except for the sound of typing. The message showed their new lives. Dad sleeping on a fold-out bed under Aunt Unia's rules. Dorian in a neon vest scanning boxes for hours with very short breaks. A follow-up message said the bank problems were solved. I logged into the Horizon Federal website. The account was paid in full. No alerts, no balance. I saved the thread, cursor hovering, and then hit delete. I looked out the window at a delivery truck across the street. 2 drivers carried boxes the same way Dorian did. No envy, no pity, just watching. Their choices, their outcomes. My focus stayed on listings and closings. I cleared my browser history and closed the laptop. The message disappeared like dust. Updates came without asking. I didn't owe them a reply. Lives had separated, paths had diverged. Family isn't just the line on a birth certificate. It's the hand signing beside you at the closing table. I learned that with silence and blocked calls, obligations fade when the other person doesn't care anymore. In the garage, I looked through storage bins and found the old plaque. "Home Sweet Home," in worn letters. I grabbed a level and a drill and went outside. The mailbox post was waiting. I screwed the plaque on tight. It hung straight in the sunlight, greeting the street ahead.